Ready to go!
Alrighty, ladies and gents, it is season 2 finale time. Todd Hutchings. We are talking about taking it easy, time off before competition.
The taper cycle or the time off before a competition. And I've heard, I think it's generally 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The rule of thumb, it's pretty long.
Yeah, it is.
It's 2 or 3 weeks. It's always more than a week.
Right now, I'm competing 10 days from now, and I'm in my taper, and largely fully resting.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the West Side barbell system. Any strength you don't train for 3 weeks goes down 10 to 15%. You take 3 weeks off, you lost 10 to 15% of whatever you're not training. So if you don't bench press for 3 weeks, Louis Simmons thinks you lost 10 to 15% of it.
I'm gonna go do some back pressure training tonight.
At least tonight.
Yeah.
Twice tonight.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you have to cut weight, that changes it, because when I was cutting weight, that was like a 2 week cycle. So the 2 weeks out, I would still train, but I wasn't doing real intense stuff just because I was calorie deficient. I didn't have a lot of energy. You know, I started to manipulate the salt and everything else. So that was mostly training, keep everything flowing, but it was just grit. But the last 5 days where the weight cut really stepped up, I'd scale it. I'd scale it way back, but I'd still do side pressure, shoulders, some wrist curl stuff. But other than that, if you don't have to cut weight, or if your weight cut is minimal, if your weight cut's not 7 to 10% of your weight, I don't see any reason to take any time off. If you one rep max on a Saturday, and every Saturday you're setting a new personal record, or if, say, 8 out of 10 times you're setting a new personal record, you are used to being stronger every Saturday than you were the Saturday before. Why would you say, wait, I got to stop that? I'm going to get stronger by not doing what's worked for 6 months. I'm going to go get on the couch and get really strong like the Spartans did.
Well, it's a tricky sport because we're not lifting numbers come competition day. Like, we don't ever get the true, like, if we're a powerlifters, it's much clearer for them because they know the number was their best ever. They set the new PR or whatever on that day. We're taking on a human, so there's this unknown factor of, were we actually stronger today, or we don't know.
But if you're one of those goofy top rollers who believes the hand is the all-important thing, you know, you can have 1 rep maxes on your wrist curl, whether you pronate it or supinate it or something, and you know you always want that stronger. Or if you're just like, you know, like a real man and just arm wrestle with your arm and believe the hand is nice, but it's secondary. You can measure side pressure and back pressure and up pressure and down pressure. And if you are adding percents to that every single week,
why would you get off that?
Why would you say, wait, I got a better idea? What's been working 90% of the weeks for the last 3 months? I'm going to do something completely different and go back to where it was before I was training, because I was so much stronger before I trained.
Have you ever felt it backfire? Have you ever felt weaker on the day and thought to myself, I didn't give myself, like, did it ever derail for you?
I felt like I wished I would have trained closer to competition. I've never felt like I've took an insufficient time off. I've often felt like, I wish I would have worked a little harder last Tuesday. You know, because your body responds to that, you know.
And table time versus gym time.
Table time is hard. I would stop the table time long before a competition, because especially if you are not the strongest person in practice. If you are one of the weaker people, you're getting sore all the time because you're constantly getting ripped open. And that soreness, pain isn't weakness, but it's really hard to commit to a full blast effort if you're sore. No matter what you've taken and how you numbed it, you still know that elbow was sore. And if that elbow's sore, walking into weigh-ins, you know what? It's still messing with your head the next day when everybody else looks huge. And besides, your table time, that should be more for your skills. You shouldn't be developing your strength or your power on the table, because you have no way of dialing up the resistance of your opponent. You know, I can't say, all right, let's see, I'm on a 3 week wave, I need to do 4 sets of 3 at 90%.
Yeah.
I need you to put out 90% of my side pressure.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't max my side pressure,
Yeah.
how am I going to get stronger pulling you? You know.
Yeah. Cool. So no table time for maybe what, 2-3 weeks prior to a comp or something.
Yeah, I would practice on the table anywhere between twice a week to once a month, depending on what was available. About going into it. What would happen is now at this particular age or point or whatever it is, that this hard practice messes me up for a week.
Yeah.
My arms, they hurt, they're sore. It takes forever to get them warmed back up again. So I stop the table time weeks before a competition. But you know, on your table, you're trying to get your timing down, figure out your grip. You know, it's more scrimmaging than it is force development or speed development. So, but
I want to ask you the same question that I asked John Brzenk. I asked him if there was $1 million on the line, how would he? And the match was 12 months from today. What would the year look like, and when would he take a break? And John said 3 months out would be when he.
John is a phenom. So John would basically retire or just quit 3 months before $1 million match. Where I think I read a blog once where I wasn't going to pull him, but Rustum had a match coming up. And he didn't start training for it until it was 3 months out.
Yeah.
It was like Zlati was coming up, and Rustum, I've been at the lake with the family for so long, but 3 months out I'll start training.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But hey, what John did worked for John.
Yeah.
But John's got, if you've ever practiced with him, he practices unlike anybody else I've ever seen. He's got so little ego at practice that everybody that practices with John walks away thinking they can beat John. You know, they feel so good pulling John, because John is always where he's weak. Yeah. He's always working on skills, and nobody else. I mean, it's a rare person that'll practice like that.
I agree. I have gripped John once in a practice session, and I remember feeling, where? I was confused as to why I felt so good against John, and John just doing John, I guess. So.
I mean, even you're very, very good. Like even me, you come to practice and you beat me a few times, and you know that doesn't get. But you beat me once when I don't think you should. And then I got to come back, and now I got to because I got to keep my own mental thing from breaking down. Like, holy, did I really get weaker? How did that happen? But John's got faith in what he did, but it's not followed by too many people.
Yeah.
I mean,
and what John, to elaborate a little more about what John said in regard to that, he said that often if there's a big match coming up, that people get a little excited about it, and they actually train harder than they've ever trained before, and cause long-term inflammation, chronic inflammation in their tendons, which kills their strength or their potential come comp day.
It could, but that sounds like those people are training incorrect. We know a lot more about training now than we did 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah. I
always hear, we should do a video series on inflammation sometime, because I hear that all the time. People say, take this, it's good for inflammation, do this. Yeah. I have no clue what they're talking about. Yeah. What's this inflammation you're talking about? I don't have it, or what you're calling it, or they're calling inflammation is something I'm calling something else.
Yeah.
I do not know what you're talking about.
Inflammation of tendons, I would say, of connective tissue, the micro tears that happen in your tendons.
But we already covered that in like episode 1 or 2. If you're doing sets of 50 on your biceps, your shoulders, and your wrists, you don't have inflammation. The cure for that is low intensity, high volume blood flow healing. It's the same thing that protects them and makes them stronger. Yeah. So if you're doing that, you don't have inflammation. But I don't.
Yeah, and that's an early days arm wrestling thing. That's newcomer first 12 months. You go through a lot of that, I think. But
2 or 3 years into the sport, you got bigger things. You're trying to figure out how to pay for your first surgery. You're not worried about inflammation.
So back to the big question. 12 months from today, you got $1 million match. Would there be anything different that you do? What's the perfect setup for that?
For $1 million.
For $1 million.
The first thing I would do right now is I would lay out where I think all my 1 rep maxes have to be. All right. I would quit my job.
Yeah.
All right. I would definitely train 17, 18 times a week, and I would go get whatever pharmaceuticals cause kidney failure after multiple years of arm wrestling. Because with $1 million, fuck it, I can buy kidneys.
Yeah.
I would figure out for $1 million, because
Yep.
the other guy on $1 million match is,
Yep.
But other than that, I'm already training. I change my routine all the time. I'm always trying to figure out how to make me as strong as I possibly can. Yeah. So, but I just changed my whole routine 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've been doing the same basic routine for 20 some years now. There's speed day, max day, there's volume days, but
you'd ultimately just become more committed to the cause, and tighten up and everything, and go to a new level of effort. Now, when it's coming to that 3-month mark where John's just stopped, you're still going?
Oh, I'd probably, if I don't have to cut weight, I'm going up to within 2 or 3 days of the match.
Yeah, 2 or 3 days of the match. Yeah,
because I'm not going to be hurt, because we covered injury prevention.
So your last 1 rep max, when would that have been?
Probably 2 or 3 weeks out.
2 or 3 weeks out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in between that 2 or 3 weeks, the volume, intensity.
I probably do everything. I do everything, but let's say you're doing your 1 rep maxes on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Okay, 2 or 3 weeks out, those same days, I'd probably do 85 to 90% of a 1 rep max on those 2 days.
Yep.
Everything else wouldn't be changed. But I would lock the volume in for everything else, because since I didn't 1 rep max, I've got more energy to do something else. But at that point, I would just step. So if I'm doing 45-pound bicep curls for 3,000-pound reps, I do that same amount of volume.
Yep.
So I reduced my work output. I'm still training harder than anybody else is, but I reduced my work output, so the body's jump starting that. It's so that whole that periodization, because if you wave through your heavy days, it allows you to
increase something else.
But that periodization. I mean, it's well documented for all the big moves, for the power lifters, the Olympic lifters. Arms are tricky. Arms, wrists, and shoulders. The muscles are so small that a lot of the formulas and bases of those routines that work so well on the big lifts, you gotta move them a little bit, because especially the wrist muscles are so small that I think you triple or quadruple the volume on them. Shoulders are weird because they're complex, so you don't want to do anything which gets them out of geometry, but it's waves on the arms. It's probably right. It certainly doesn't hurt. I haven't figured out the right.
Very good. Well, I like that approach. That's honestly different to anything that I've heard so far in my journey, and the continuation right up to that moment. Because I've always taken between 7 and 14 days off, just almost blanket stop.
See, that makes me feel
and
soft.
It does. It always played on my mind. It always did. I always would fear that I was getting weak, and the way that I would combat that would be just shadow boxing and still contracting the muscles and trying to remind myself that, hey, I'm still an arm wrestler. I haven't put this away, but I like it. I'm gonna give it a go and actually just continue and see how that feels. But because of that unknown factor of it being a human and not a bar with a number on it, I'm always kind of just unsure whether I really was at my strongest or not.
Well, you're stronger. You can only record your strength on the lifts in your training. How you apply it, that skills training. If you know you're strong, say backwards, all right, and you've trained so you're strong off axis a few degrees, right? But if you don't get to do that because the other guy's better at sideways, so you still got to be that country boy strong. You got to be strong in so many different directions. Or just tough. Just bite your tongue tough, And so you've got a match with Devin Larratt in like 48 hours. Yes.
Your last training session was when?
It was yesterday. And I did my normal speed day. And I rotate my speed exercises every 2 weeks, because the first weekend I never know how to get the weights, because my bands aren't quite accurate, so I really don't know. But then picking you up, shot Monday and Tuesday. I mean, that was. And then we're driving tomorrow. But other than that, I would have trained. My intention would have been to train Tuesday, but I couldn't do doodly squat today. So I'll have Tuesday and Wednesday.
So
I'll have Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'll have 3 days off.
Yeah,
with 1 day of really heavy drinking, which probably counts as 4 days off.
So I've thrown a complete spanner in the works of your preparation.
Had you just flown to Pittsburgh, I would have trained Monday, Tuesday, and I would have trained Wednesday morning, and then got in the car and drove up there.
There you go. There you go. Awesome stuff. Well, thank you so much for sharing that approch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully I haven't killed your match with Devin Larry. By the time we all watch this, we'll know
I don't need
what
no
happened
hand-arm
anyway.
wrestle him anyways.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yes, that's a man!